The other guy I want to talk about when we talk about the improvement of this defense is Bryce Boettcher, because we know this game means a lot to him. He's a Eugene kid. What did Tatum say? Like, that boy crazy. And he was, the one I wrote down was when he was talking about, he makes 9 tackles in the first half, 10 overall. And just because I was in the flow state, man, it was the best feeling in the world. What did Bryce Boettcher do in this game? We've heard guys talk about how much of an impact player he is on this defense, just like in terms of being the guy who hypes people up. Like, why is he so important to this Oregon defense? What did he do in this game? What does he mean to this team, man?
Like you said, especially in that first half, he was just flying around out there. 9 tackles. What did he finish with? 10 or 10. 11? I think 11 is his career high, so I don't think he quite got there. But he looked like he was going to that first half, especially when Oregon State was running the ball a little bit more successfully at first. It was Bryce Boettcher who was the guy who was able to make those tackles, be able to collapse down and hold them. When Oregon State was being successful on the ground, it was still less, just under 4 yards per carry on those attempts in that first quarter. So it's still not anything crazy that the Ducks are giving up. And it was Bryce Boettcher was that guy coming in there to make those hits. And he doesn't finish with as many tackles as he did throughout that first half, just because of kind of where the game script got. Oregon State had to throw the ball a bunch late in that one. They weren't running the ball successfully in the second quarter, and then basically went away from it after that. And so Bryce Boettcher didn't have those opportunities to make those plays near the line of scrimmage. But you can tell with Bryce Boettcher, these games mean something more to him.
Especially when he's in there in the fourth quarter with the twos, and he's still playing, he's still flying around. Like, that was the part that really stood out to me. And he told Dan, he told us that he told Dan, he's like, I want to be in there every play. And there weren't a lot that he was out for.
Yeah, there's just that Bryce Boettcher is a Eugene kid. He's been a fan of this program since he was a kid. He understands the history of the rivalry. He was who I wrote about last year when we went into rivalry week, because he's a guy who has perspective of it on the football field, on the baseball field, as a fan growing up. And so it just means more to him. And you can really tell out there when he's on the field that he is ready to go hit some Beavers and do whatever he can, because there's no way that he is going to allow something like that 2022 game to happen again. That's just not going to happen on Bryce Boettcher's watch.
Yeah, I want to get just like a little bit of a story that we heard last week. After they finished telling us how he walked on and it was hitting guys, he told a story about how at practice it was the last day we talked to him on Wednesday. He kind of just pulled out a lawn chair afterward and sat in the end zone and watched it. And that really feels like where he is. Like, he's got perspective now, kind of on this program, and that's what makes him so valuable. Obviously he's a fantastic player and he's flying around and he's making tackles, but especially when you see the linebackers that Oregon brings up, not only, the inside guys, Jerry Mixon's been fantastic and I want to talk about him too, but just the way that Oregon's able to develop front 7 guys. I think a lot of that's down to Bryce Boettcher, because you have a guy who's in the room who understands the culture of this program, and also how to grow and how to evolve as a player and learn and get smarter, because his football IQ has grown so much since he walked on. I think Oregon's just lucky to have this guy.
The culture of the program is really what Bryce has been such a big part of the entire time that he's been here. And really, Dan talked about how he's helped establish this rivalry for some of those other guys coming into the roster this year. He's been the guy in the locker room leading them the whole time. Like, hey, we got to get up for this game. I know it's Oregon State, but these are our little, like Jerry Mixon said, these are our little bros, Bryce is the one that is kind of enforcing that message to the team and kind of letting them know, hey, we don't turn down for Oregon State. We bring everything we have, and we're going to make sure we beat them. But like you said, the what he said about the other day about kind of sitting after practice, I think that also just speaks to what he's helped create in terms of the culture on the team, because Bryce Boettcher is a guy who Dan Lanning said when they're talking about a couple weeks ago, we had all the discussion about the NIL and stuff with Oklahoma State. Dan Lanning, he was like, Bryce Boettcher came here for a t-shirt. He walked onto the football team after being a baseball player. He has worked to, become a contributing safety on special teams, and then become a third string linebacker, and then last year become a starting linebacker and win the Burlsworth Award and be the leader for this team. And he's been that guy the entire time, putting in extra work. And so now here he is, a guy in his fifth or sixth year here in Eugene. He's been around this program, and he's been the one, after practice every day putting in that extra work. And now here he is. He gets to sit back in his lawn chair and, like you said, watch those other guys put in that extra work. Watch his teammates at 20 minutes after practice still getting those extra reps in, still doing those extra drills. And that's part of that culture that he created, because they, these guys who Dylan Williams, when he came to campus last year, I mean, he just an example, he hasn't been on the field yet this season, but when Dylan Williams, and Braden Platt, when those guys arrived as freshman linebackers last season, they saw it every day in those meetings. They saw Bryce Boettcher, taking those extra notes, asking those extra questions, getting those extra reps on the field after practice. And then that's really translated down. And now Bryce is the guy sitting back watching his teammates and knowing that this is going to continue because of the culture that we've established here.
Yeah, Oregon's lucky, man. I'm going to give you your Jerry Mixon minute here. He got his start. Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week. What did you see from him? He had that like nasty hit really early on somebody running a drag, and it felt like that just kind of set the tone for where Oregon was going to go. And he got a lot of snaps here. Doesn't get a pick. We're really disappointed to hear that, Jerry. But But what are you seeing from him? Is he going to be the guy you feel for that game at Penn State?
Yeah, I think so. He should be starting out there next to Boettcher at linebacker. I thought Jackson did play a better game today. Devin Jackson did. He seems like he's kind of finding himself a little bit more. It's just the hesitancy that he's had out there for a guy that is as fast as he is. He just plays with a little bit of hesitancy. It felt like I really saw it on the tape in that Northwestern game where he's just, you pause it a second into the play and everyone else is moving and Devin Jackson's still standing where he was before the play started, because whether that's he's collecting his reads, whether that's, maybe I don't know exactly what the play call is for Oregon. So every time, but he just hasn't, moved with the same urgency that guys like Jerry Mixon and Bryce Boettcher have out there at linebacker, and then Mixon was really doing it again today. He's always the first one to react. It feels like he's just got really good instincts, really good reaction time to those plays, and you could see it today. 2 pass breakups for him, led the team, with those 2 pass breakups, and those are instincts plays where he's watching things, reading things, and then able to jump into those lanes. And then he does a really good job at baiting those quarterbacks, and we saw that last week in that. They tried to run a Texas route at him, just a little angle route. He was watching the quarterback all the way, and then before the quarterback even started throwing that thing last week, he jumped in front of it. So he just plays with it's instincts. It's all mental with him. He's a really good athlete, but what makes his game the next level is those mental things where he's timing up the snap count to get in there to make a play against the run and setting someone up so that he can make a play and then be a game-changing play in the pass game.
Yeah, I think that's really where Oregon's maybe made one of the bigger steps this year. I mean, DB was good, and they look very solid again today, even just against a guy who takes a lot of deep shots. But the fact that they've got 2 guys there at linebacker who you can feel really, really confident in, it's just a game changer. I mean, last thing before I had to break here, anytime you hold a guy to 28% completion under 100 yards, it's a success. Do you feel like that was more on Malik Murphy kind of losing control of and losing sight of what he wanted to do in this Oregon State passing game, or is that really down to how stifling the Ducks were?
I think it's something I'll have to definitely rewatch, but I think I ultimately off first watch, I'd say that's what Oregon was doing to this team. Oregon State just had nowhere to go with the football at times. It felt like Murphy. I had it pulled up earlier, like his passing chart, like his pass by pass. And it was like he completed one like 14-40 something and left in the second quarter. And then his next completed pass wasn't until like 14 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So that was basically the entire middle 2 quarters of the game. He went like 0 for 9, basically, didn't complete a single pass within that stretch. And it was just Oregon's defensive backs. Every single time he did try to go somewhere with the ball, they're just, not only was he getting pressure in his face from the defensive front, be able to force a scramble out at times that made him make some mess with his accuracy, but then the defensive backs from Oregon just every time rallying to the football when it does get thrown short. That's something this team has done really well all season, and then getting to the football to make those plays on the ball when it is up in the air, when they are trying to come over the middle, delivering those hits and being able to disengage those. The Ducks played a lot more man-to-man coverage today than their zone looks. They split that up. They have the guys who can play man right now. In terms of what they have at cornerback, you have to have some really good man-to-man cover guys out there. And Dan said that they went to a lot more of those looks today to just kind of shut some of those windows down that Murphy has relied on this season because the running game really hasn't been there for Oregon State so far. So he's had to do a lot more of that that intermediate passing, trying to find those windows and those holes in the zone. And so because Oregon knew that that was what they were going to try to look for, Oregon State was today in the passing game, they went man to man, and they just have the matchups to kind of they're superior in terms of their matchups when you have guys like Brandon Finney out there and Theron Johnson at corner, Sione Ilalea. Also good to see him back out there too,
Yes,
as a guy who did
100%.
miss last week's game.
Yeah,